I accept your rejection, Alpha. 5 words. One shattered bond. One predator who realized too late that the prey he'd thrown away was the only heartbeat keeping his wolf sane. Welcome to The Rejected Mate, a story of public humiliation, secret survival, and a love so fierce it burned through 3 years of silence, wolfsbane tattoos, and a faked death. This is the tale of Lyra Nighthelm, the scarred orphan who crushed her bondstone in front of an entire kingdom, and Alpha King Caius Voss, the predator who spent every night since hunting for the ghost of her heartbeat. Before we begin, if you love intense werewolf romance, second chance mates, and alphas who grovel until their knees bleed, hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and turn on notifications so you never miss a chapter of heartbreak and redemption. Now, let the hunt begin. Chapter 1. The stone that shattered the grand hall of the Northern Pack blazed with moon crystal chandeliers, casting silver light across hundreds of noble wolves dressed in their finest. Tonight was supposed to be a celebration, the Alpha King's fated mate reveal, but the air tasted like copper and cruelty. Alpha King Caius Voss stood at the center of the marble floor, 29 years of dominance carved into every line of his body. They called him the Predator of the North, a wolf who'd never lost a battle, never shown mercy, never bent his knee to anything but the moon itself. And beside him, trembling but standing tall, was Lyra Nighthelm, 19 years old, orphaned at 12, face marked with 3 pale scars that ran from temple to jaw, a gift from the rogue attack that killed her parents. She wore a simple gray dress, no jewels, no crown, because Caius Voss hadn't summoned her here to claim her. He'd summoned her here to destroy her. "The bond," Caius announced, his voice echoing off the vaulted ceiling, "is a mistake." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Lyra's fingers tightened around the bondstone in her palm, the sacred crystal that glowed when mates touched, proof of the moon goddess's will. "You are weak," he continued, golden eyes cold as winter stars. "Scarred. Common. You would dilute the royal bloodline and shame this pack with your presence. I, Caius Voss, Alpha King of the Northern Territory, reject you as mate and Luna." The crowd erupted, some cheering, some silent with shock, others gleeful at the spectacle. But Lyra lifted her chin. She raised the bondstone high, and before anyone could stop her, she crushed it in her bare palm. The crystal shattered with a sound like breaking glass, and her blood dripped onto the white marble floor, crimson roses blooming on snow. "I accept your rejection, Alpha," she said, voice steady despite the bond tearing through her chest like silver claws. "And I gift you the silence you claimed I never deserved." The hall went dead quiet. Caius's wolf roared inside him, thrashing against his ribs, screaming hours, hours, hours. But he locked it down, forced his face into stone. Lyra turned, barefoot and bleeding, and walked out of the grand hall. No one stopped her, no one followed, and Alpha King Caius Voss told himself he felt nothing but relief. He was wrong. Chapter 2. Crown of Ash. Lyra ran, through the palace gardens, past the silver gates, into the forest where moonlight couldn't reach. Her feet bled. Her heart bled worse. The bond break felt like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out her soul, leaving only a howling void. Behind her, in the grand hall, Caius stood frozen. His wolf clawed at his mind, a feral thing suddenly realizing what they'd done. The first crack appeared in his composure. His hand shook as he reached for the wineglass, and he crushed the stem to powder. "Your Majesty!" His beta stepped forward, concerned. "Leave me," Caius snarled, and the command carried alpha pressure so heavy that wolves dropped to their knees. But he couldn't command away the phantom sensation of her heartbeat, the echo of her scent, wild honey and winter rain, that clung to every corridor. Meanwhile, Lyra reached the river, the Nighthelm River, named for her family before they were slaughtered. How fitting. She looked at her reflection in the black water, scarred, rejected, unwanted. She pulled the silver coronet from her hair, the one the palace staff had forced her to wear, and let it sink beneath the current. Then she drew a knife, grabbed a fistful of her long silver hair, and cut. Cut until it hung in jagged chunks around her jaw. Cut until she looked like someone else, someone Caius Voss would never recognize. She tore strips from her dress, wrapped them around her bleeding palms, and left her shoes on the riverbank. A perfect scene. Abandoned crown, torn fabric, blood on the rocks. Let them think she drowned. Let them think she's gone. And she vanished into the darkness, a ghost before her body had even cooled. Chapter 3. Predator unleashed 3 nights without sleep. Alpha King Caius Voss paced his chambers like a caged beast, his wolf a constant roar in his skull. Every shadow looked like her. Every breeze carried the ghost of her scent. He'd tried to convince himself it was just the bond break taking time to settle. But it wasn't settling. It was getting worse. His beta brought news on the 4th morning. They'd found evidence at the river, the coronet, blood, torn clothing, no body. But the current was strong, and scavenger birds had been circling downstream. "We believe she—" "Your Majesty, the orphan appears to have taken her own life." Caius's office exploded. He put his fist through the oak desk, shattered the window with a roar, and his alpha presence rolled out like a tsunami, sending guards to their knees 3 floors below. "Find her!" he bellowed. "Search every inch of that river. I want a body. I want proof." But even as he said it, his wolf whispered, "Alive. She's alive." We would know if our mate was dead. The council convened that afternoon, stone-faced elders who'd never approved of the common orphan girl anyway. "Your Majesty," the head elder said carefully, "the kingdom needs a Luna." The rejection was unorthodox, but perhaps for the best. "We have suitable candidates from the noble families." Caius's claws extended. "Speak her name again," he said, voice deadly soft, "and I'll show you exactly why they call me the Predator." The council fell silent. That night, Caius executed 3 wolves, nobles who'd cheered loudest during the rejection, who'd mocked Lyra's scars, who'd celebrated her supposed death. He did it in the town square, swift and brutal, and left their bodies as a message. The king is done playing nice. But alone in his chambers, he pressed his palm to his chest, where the bond used to glow, and whispered into the darkness, "Where are you?" No answer came. Only the empty echo of his own heartbeat, suddenly unbearably lonely. Chapter 4. The Ranger with No Name, 3 years later. The border territories between the Northern Pack and the Wildlands were lawless, brutal, beautiful, and they were protected by a ranger with no name. The locals called her Ash. She appeared one winter, lean and scarred, with hair like silver smoke and eyes that had seen too much. She wore leather armor reinforced with iron studs, carried a recurve bow made from blackwood, and moved through the forest like she was part of it, silent, lethal, gone. But the most striking thing about Ash? The tattoos. Wolfsbane flowers, rendered in black ink, covered both forearms from wrist to elbow. To any wolf, the message was clear. Stay away. I've poisoned my own scent. You can't track me. It was the mark of someone who never wanted to be found. Ash took contracts nobody else would touch, rogue packs terrorizing villages. She hunted them, smugglers running silver weapons. She burned their caravans, children lost in the wildlands. She brought them home every single time, even when it meant walking 3 days without sleep. Today's contract: rogue attack on a farming settlement. Ash arrived to find chaos. 5 rogues, feral and foam-mouthed, tearing through the village center. Civilians screaming. A little girl, maybe 6 years old, frozen in the middle of the square. Ash didn't hesitate. She put 3 arrows through 3 hearts in the span of 2 breaths. Silver-tipped, the rogues dropped like stones. The 4th lunged at the child, and Ash threw herself between them, taking claws across her collarbone. Blood sprayed. The little girl shrieked, But Ash rolled, came up with a knife, and ended the rogue with a blade through the base of its skull. The fifth tried to run. She shot it through the spine from 20 paces. Silence fell. The little girl looked up at Ash, tears streaming, and whispered, "You're bleeding!" Ash pressed a hand to the new scar forming across her collarbone, 4 parallel lines that would mark her forever, and smiled. A real smile, small and fierce. "I've had worse," she said, and lifted the child into her arms. "You're safe now." That's what matters. The villagers surrounded them, grateful and awed, pressing coins and food into her hands. But Ash took only what she needed for supplies, and disappeared before they could ask her real name. She never stayed long enough for anyone to ask questions. Because 3 years might have passed, but she still woke up some nights with the phantom sensation of a bond tearing, still heard his voice in her nightmares. "You are weak, scarred, common." And she whispered back to the darkness, voice hard as iron, "I am Ash, I am steel, and I am never going back." Chapter 5. Silver Bullet Contract. The contract came through the Ranger Network, sealed with a royal insignia. High-risk protection detail. Royal caravan traveling through wildlands to Iron Ridge Summit. Duration, 2 weeks. Payment, 500 gold. 500 gold. That was enough to fund the orphanage in the border town for a year. Ash read the contract 3 times, instinct screaming at her to refuse. But those kids needed medicine, needed food, needed a chance. She took the contract. The meeting point was a tavern on the edge of civilization. Rough wood, rougher clientele, the kind of place where you kept your weapons visible and your back to the wall. Ash arrived an hour early, claimed a corner table, and watched. The other rangers filtered in. Scarred veterans, every one of them. This wasn't a babysitting job. This was an escort through territory where rogues hunted in packs and bandits stripped caravans to bone. Then the royal caravan arrived. 3 reinforced wagons, 20 guards in ceremonial armor that wouldn't last 5 minutes in real combat, and Ash's heart stopped. A man in a hooded farmer's cloak, broad-shouldered and moving with predator grace, stepped down from the lead wagon. The hood shadowed his face, but she saw his hands, strong, calloused, with 2 parallel scars across the knuckles. She knew those hands. She'd seen them crush a bondstone. "Number!" "No, no, no." But he kept the hood up, and when he spoke to the captain of the guard, his voice was carefully neutral. Accent shifted just slightly north of noble. "The rangers are here?" he asked. "Yes, my lord. I mean, sir." The captain caught himself. "6 of the best." The hooded man turned, scanning the tavern, and for one heart-stopping moment, his gaze passed directly over Ash. She didn't breathe, didn't move. The wolfsbane tattoos hid her scent, and she'd changed everything: hair, posture, the way she held herself. She wasn't Lyra Nighthelm anymore. She was Ash, and Ash didn't run. His gaze moved on. "Good," he said quietly. "We leave at dawn." That night, Ash sharpened her knives and told herself she could do this. 2 weeks. Keep her hood up, her distance far, her mouth shut. Collect the gold. Disappear. She didn't let herself think about why Alpha King Caius Voss was traveling in disguise, searching for something in the wildlands with the desperation of a wolf who'd lost his prey. She didn't let herself wonder if he was searching for her. Chapter 6. Hayloft Heartbeats. The storm hit on the 5th night. Not rain, a full northern tempest, the kind that turned roads to rivers and made travel suicide. The caravan took shelter in an abandoned way station, but space was limited. Guards claimed the main hall, nobles took the few actual rooms, and the rangers got the hayloft, all except Ash. "You're smallest," the captain said, shoving her toward the barn. "Take the overflow space." "There's one other." The hooded man stepped into the barn doorway, shaking water from his cloak. Ash's blood turned to ice. "Problem?" He kept his voice neutral, but there was something underneath it. A rasp, a exhaustion, like he hadn't slept in years. "No problem, sir," the captain said quickly. "You two can share the loft. Storm should pass by morning." And he left them there, alone, in a hayloft, with one lantern, one pile of relatively dry hay, and a door that swung shut with a very final thunk. Silence stretched between them like a blade. Ash moved to the far corner, as far from him as physics allowed, and sat with her back to the wall, bow across her lap. Not aimed at him, but ready. The hooded man, Caius, though she'd die before saying his name, lowered himself to sit against the opposite wall. He kept the hood up, but in the lantern light, she caught glimpses. Sharp jaw, the edge of a scar she didn't remember, shadows under his eyes that looked carved. "You're good," he said suddenly. Ash stiffened. "Sir?" "The rogue kill 3 days ago. I saw the report. 5 enemies, 1 ranger, 0 civilian casualties. That takes skill. It takes necessity." Her voice came out rougher than intended. She'd trained herself to speak lower, harder. "Rogues don't negotiate." "No," he agreed quietly. "They don't." Another silence. Outside, thunder cracked like the sky was breaking. Caius shifted, and his wolf. Ash could feel it, even through the wolfsbane, a massive presence pressing against her senses, stirred restlessly. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Depends on the question." "The wolfsbane tattoos." "Those aren't decoration. You're hiding from someone." Ash's hand tightened on her bow. "I'm hiding from everyone. That's the point." "Why?" "Because the man I was fated to told the world I was worthless. Because I crushed my own bondstone. Because I died by a river and built myself new from the ashes. Because some of us don't get fairy tale endings, sir." "Some of us get survival, and that's enough." Caius went very still. Then, so quietly, she almost missed it. What if survival isn't enough anymore? Before she could answer, his wolf surged. She felt the presence spike, heard him bite back a growl, and suddenly he was on his feet, backing away from her like she'd burned him. "Your scent," he rasped. "Beneath the wolfsbane, there's—" Ash shot to her feet, knife in hand, leveled at his throat in one fluid motion. "Move," she said, voice deadly calm, "and I decorate the wall." They stood frozen, her blade at his throat. His eyes locked on hers, and in the lantern light she saw the gold, that specific shade of gold she'd tried so hard to forget. Recognition flickered in his gaze. Number. No. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't say it." "Don't say anything. You wanted me gone. I'm gone. Let it stay that way." "Lyra," she pressed the blade until blood welled. "That's not my name." "It is." "It always was. And his voice cracked, "I've been searching for 3 years." "Then stop." "I can't." And the naked desperation in those 2 words broke something in the air between them. "My wolf is dying without you. I'm dying. I was a fool and a coward, and I destroyed the only thing that mattered." "Good," Ash said, and her smile was all teeth. "Die slow, Your Majesty. Maybe you'll finally understand what rejection feels like." She sheathed the knife, grabbed her pack, and kicked open the loft door. "Where are you going?" "The storm." "I've survived worse." And she jumped down into the rain, leaving him alone with his regrets and the ghost of her scent. Chapter 7. The Predators Kneel. The ambush came at dawn. Ash was scouting ahead, wet and furious, and trying not to think about last night, when she smelled them. Rogues. No. Worse. Organized. Professional. This wasn't a random attack. This was an execution. She sprinted back to the caravan, bow already in hand, and arrived just as the first silver net dropped from the trees. Chaos erupted. 20 attackers, all wearing masks, all armed with silver weapons, illegal, expensive, and deadly to wolves. The guards went down fast, ceremonial armor useless. The other rangers fought back, but they were outnumbered and outflanked. And in the center of it all, Caius threw back his hood. Alpha King Caius Voss, predator of the north, shed his disguise and shifted mid-leap. A massive black wolf with gold eyes, fury made flesh. He tore through 3 attackers before they even saw him coming. But the ambush was designed for him. 2 assassins flanked Ash, silver knives flashing. She ducked, rolled, put an arrow through one's throat. The second lunged for her back. Caius hit him like a freight train. The wolf, his wolf, slammed the assassin into a tree with enough force to shatter bone, then positioned himself between Ash and the rest of the attackers, protecting her, shielding her. "You idiot!" Ash screamed, knocking another arrow. "I don't need—" The silver net hit Caius from above. He roared, agony and fury, as the enchanted net tightened, silver burning through fur. He shifted back to human, blood running from a dozen cuts, and still he stood, putting himself between her and danger. "Ash," he growled, voice raw. "Run!" Not a chance. She shot the net's anchor point, and the thing loosened just enough for Caius to tear free. But an assassin came from his blind side, claws extended, aiming for his heart. Ash threw herself forward, shoved him sideways, took the claws across her ribs instead. Pain, white-hot, blinding. She hit the ground hard. Above her, Caius exploded. His wolf form erupted again, but different, larger, darker, angrier. An alpha defending his mate was the most dangerous thing in existence, and these assassins had just learned that lesson in blood. He tore through them like they were paper. No mercy, no hesitation. Just primal, lethal fury. When the last body hit the ground, he shifted back to human and collapsed beside Ash, cradling her against his chest. "You're insane!" he rasped, hands shaking as he pressed them to her bleeding ribs. "You could have died." "So could you." Blood on her lips, but she smiled. "Guess we're even now, Your Majesty." "Don't call me that." He looked at her, and his eyes, those gold eyes that had once been so cold, were full of something that looked like breaking. "Lyra, Ash," she corrected weakly. "Lyra." He said it like a prayer, like a confession. "I was a coward. I was cruel. I rejected you because the council said you were weak, because I was too afraid to defend you, because I believed power mattered more than—" His voice cracked. "More than you." The other rangers were securing the area, giving them space, pretending not to listen. Caius lowered his forehead to hers. "Hit me," he whispered. "Claim your revenge. Leave me bleeding in the dirt. But please, please, don't disappear again. I can't survive it. My wolf can't. I searched every river, every border town, every place you might have gone, and when I found nothing, You what?" "I carved your name into my skin," he said simply. "So even if I never found you, I'd carry the reminder of what I destroyed." Ash's breath caught. "Show me." His hands shook as he pulled aside his shirt. There, over his heart, was a small star, rough and scarred, like it had been carved with a dull blade. Her childhood emblem, the symbol she'd drawn on every letter to her parents, every hopeful wish. He'd remembered. "Caius," she whispered, and it was the first time she'd said his name in 3 years. "I was a coward," he repeated, and then, the predator of the north, Alpha King of the Northern Territory, sank to his knees in the mud and blood, in front of his guards, his nobles, the other rangers, all of them watching, and he bowed his head. "Hit me, claim me, leave me, but don't disappear. Please, I'm begging you." Ash looked down at the broken king kneeling in the dirt, at the scar over his heart, at the tears he didn't bother hiding, and she made her choice. Chapter 8. Tattoo of Trust. They made camp in a defensible position, rocky outcrop, clear sightlines, far from the ambush site. The other rangers built watchposts and started field dressings, but Ash ignored them all. She dragged Caius into a supply tent, shoved him onto a crate, and started pulling out medical supplies. "Shirt off," she ordered. He obeyed without question, and she saw the full extent of the damage. Silver burns crisscrossing his torso, claw marks still bleeding, bruises blooming purple. "This is going to hurt," she said flatly. "I know." She poured alcohol straight into the worst wounds. He didn't flinch. "You could have died," she said, cleaning the cuts with efficient, angry movements. "Throwing yourself in front of that net? That's not strategy, that's suicide. You were in danger. I can handle myself. I know." He looked up at her, and there was something raw in his expression. "That's what makes it worse. You're stronger than I ever gave you credit for, and I rejected the most capable, fierce, extraordinary person I'll ever meet because I was too weak to fight for you." Ash's hands stilled. "Don't," she said quietly. "Don't try to fix 3 years with pretty words." "Then let me fix it with action." He reached for his belt knife. "Caius, what are you—" He placed the blade against his own chest, right below the carved star, and before she could stop him, he pressed. Blood welled. He carved slowly, deliberately, teeth gritted against the pain. One line, another, a curve, a point. Ash realized what he was drawing. A wolfsbane flower. The same design tattooed on her arms. "You want to hide from the world?" Caius said through clenched teeth, still carving. "Then I'll hide with you." "You want to be Ash, the ranger with no name? Then I'll be no one too, but I won't let you face the darkness alone, not again." "Stop!" Ash grabbed his wrist, but he'd already finished. The wolfsbane flower, raw and bleeding, marked him just below the star. "There," he said, voice hoarse. "Now we match." "You absolute idiot!" But her voice cracked, and suddenly she was crying. 3 years of grief and fury and loneliness pouring out all at once. "You can't just— You don't get to—" "I know." He caught her face in his hands, so gentle despite the blood and violence. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm going to spend every day earning it, even if it takes another 3 years, even if it takes my whole life." "Your wolf," Ash whispered. "When I broke the bond, it should have killed you. It almost did." His thumb brushed away her tears. "I'm pretty sure the only reason I survived is because somewhere, deep down, my wolf knew you were still alive. That heartbeat, I could feel it, just barely, like an echo in my chest. It's the only thing that kept me breathing. That's not how bonds work." "Then we broke the rules." He smiled, small and broken. "We're good at that." Ash looked at the blood on her hands, the scars they both carried, the impossible man kneeling before her, and she felt it. The tether, not the forced, invasive bond from before. This was different, softer, warmer, like a golden thread weaving between their souls, asking permission instead of demanding. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. "The bond?" Caius closed his eyes, and his expression was pure relief. "Yes, it's waiting. For you. For your choice." She could reject it, walk away. He'd already proven he wouldn't stop her. But Ash, Lyra, was so tired of running. "I'm not going back to the palace," she said firmly. "I don't want you to. I'm not wearing a crown or playing Luna to your nobles. I don't want you to do that either. And if I say yes to this," she touched the glowing thread between them, "you follow my rules. We build something new, something that doesn't crush people for being scarred or common or different." Caius opened his eyes, and they were full of gold-lit hope. "I abdicate tomorrow," he said simply. "The council can find a new king." "I found something better." "What's that?" "My pulse." He pressed her hand over his heart, over the carved marks. "I found my pulse, Lyra, and I'm never letting go again." The golden thread glowed brighter, asking its question, and Lyra, no longer lost, no longer broken, said yes. The bond snapped into place, and this time it felt like coming home. Chapter 9. Traitor in Velvet. The caravan never made it to Iron Ridge, because that night, while Lyra was sleeping against Caius's chest for the first time in 3 years, The beta, Caius's uncle, Marcus Voss, made his move. The message came by crow at dawn. Palace seized. Council in chains. Crown claimed. Return and kneel or be declared traitor. Caius read it twice, then handed it to Lyra without a word. Your uncle, she said flatly. My father's brother. He was always ambitious, but I didn't think. Caius stopped, jaw tight. The rejection. He pushed for it. Said you were unworthy, that the council would revolt if I claimed a scarred orphan as Luna. He engineered it. Lyra's voice went cold. He wanted you weak. Wanted the bond broken so you'd be vulnerable. And the ambush yesterday? One of the rangers approached, the grizzled woman who'd fought beside them. Silver weapons, organized assault? That wasn't rogues, Your Majesty. That was a professional kill team. Caius's claws extended. Marcus! He tried to kill you before you could reach Iron Ridge, Lyra said, pieces clicking together. Before you could meet with the neutral territories, build alliances. He wants to isolate you, make you look weak, then claim the throne permanently. Caius stood, every inch the Alpha King despite the mud and blood. And he has the council. Without them, I have no legal authority. Then we don't need legal authority, Lyra said. We need an army. The rangers looked at each other. Hate to break it to you, one said carefully, but there's 7 of us. The Royal Guard is 500 strong. Lyra smiled, sharp, dangerous, the smile of someone who'd spent 3 years surviving impossible odds. Then we call in reinforcements. She turned to Caius. The She-Wolf Legion, you disbanded them 5 years ago, said they were too aggressive, too unwilling to follow orders. They were loyal to my father, not me. After his death, they scattered to the border territories, Lyra finished, where they've been waiting for someone worth fighting for. She met his eyes. I saved 3 of their pups last year, hunted with them through winter. They know me, they trust me. Lyra, the Legion is nearly 200 warriors, all female, all fierce, all with a grudge against the current regime. If you call them, then we have an army that actually believes in something. She grabbed his hand. You want to build something new? Start here. Start with wolves who were thrown away, just like I was. Caius looked at her, this scarred, brilliant, impossible woman, and made his choice. Call them, he said. Call everyone. Lyra walked to the edge of camp, tipped her head back, and howled. Not an alpha's howl. Those were commands, demands, exertions of dominance. This was a pack call, a summons, a promise. I am here, I am fighting, join me. The rangers joined in, their voices weaving with hers. Then Caius, his howl deep and resonant, accepting her leadership. And across the wildlands, in border towns and rogue territories, in hidden camps and forgotten settlements, the She-Wolf Legion heard. And they answered. Chapter 10. Claim on Camera. The full moon festival at Iron Ridge was supposed to be neutral ground. All territories represented, no violence permitted, politics set aside for one night of celebration. Marcus Voss arrived with an army. 500 royal guards in gleaming armor, banners flying, making a show of force. He declared himself acting Alpha King, claimed Caius was dead, and brought enough steel to make sure no one questioned him. But he'd made a mistake. He'd underestimated Lyra. The festival used broadcast crystals, magical relays that projected live images to every major pack territory. Thousands of wolves watching from home, seeing the celebration, the politics, the pageantry. Marcus stood on the main stage, crown glinting, and began his speech. My nephew fell to rogues, he announced, voice projecting to the crowd and crystals. It is with heavy heart that An arrow buried itself in the stage, 3 inches from his foot. The crowd gasped. Marcus spun, and from the festival's edge, wreathed in smoke from the celebration fires, the She-Wolf Legion emerged. 187 warriors, all wearing silver armor marked with wolfsbane flowers. They moved in perfect formation, silent and lethal, And at their head, Lyra, dressed in leather and steel, bow still raised, and beside her, very much alive, Alpha King Caius Voss. The broadcast crystals swiveled, capturing everything. "Uncle!" Caius called, and his voice carried across the sudden silence. "I believe you have something that belongs to me." Marcus's face went through shock, rage, calculation. "You're supposed to be dead! You're supposed to be loyal!" Caius descended into the festival grounds, the Legion parting for him. "Silver nets? Assassination contracts? Really, Marcus, I expected better from family." "You abandoned your throne!" Marcus pointed at Lyra. "For her, a scarred nobody who—" "Say one more word about my mate," Caius said softly, "and I'll remove your tongue." The crowd murmured. The crystals broadcast it all. Every pack in the territory was watching. Marcus sneered. "Mate? You rejected her publicly. The entire kingdom saw you cast her aside like garbage. And now you come crawling back with a band of reject she-wolves? Pathetic." "You're right," Caius said, and the admission rippled through the crowd. "I did reject her. I stood in the Grand Hall and destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me because I was too much of a coward to fight the council, too weak to defend her." He turned to face the broadcast crystals directly. 3 years ago, I rejected my fated mate because she was scarred, because she was an orphan, because powerful wolves told me she wasn't good enough. His voice carried raw honesty. I was wrong. And I've spent every day since searching for her, trying to earn the right to even speak her name. Lyra stepped beside him, and the crystals captured her clearly. The scars on her face, the wolfsbane tattoos, the fierce pride in her stance. "I am Lyra Nighthelm," she said, voice steady. "Rejected mate, presumed dead, reborn as Ash, border ranger. And I'm here to tell you that the wolves this kingdom throws away, we're stronger than the ones who wear crowns." The She-Wolf Legion raised their weapons in unified salute. Marcus laughed, but it sounded hollow. "A pretty speech, but you have 200 warriors. I have 500, and the law—" "The law," Lyra interrupted, "says that an alpha who commits treason forfeits his claim. You sent assassins after your own blood. That's not succession. That's murder." "Prove it," Lyra smiled. "Gladly." She whistled, sharp and clear. From the crowd, 3 figures emerged. Former assassins, the ones who'd survived the ambush. Lyra had tracked them, captured them, and kept them alive for exactly this moment. "Tell them," she said simply. "Tell everyone who hired you." The first assassin, hands bound, looked at the broadcast crystals, at the thousands of witnesses, and broke. "Marcus Voss," he said, "paid in royal gold, gave us silver weapons and explicit orders. Kill Caius, make it look like rogues." The crowd erupted. Marcus's face went purple. "Lies! The word of hired killers means nothing." "Then let's ask your wolf," Caius said. And before Marcus could react, Caius's Alpha command rolled out, so powerful it brought every wolf in the festival to their knees. Except Lyra. She stood firm, the bond between them glowing visible gold. "Shift," Caius commanded, his voice carrying primal authority. "Show them your wolf, Uncle. Show them if you're telling the truth." Marcus tried to resist, but Alpha commands from a direct bloodline were absolute. His wolf tore free. And it was wrong. Patchy fur, red eyes, the distinct corruption of someone who'd been poisoning their own pack bonds, severing natural connections to gain power. The crowd recoiled. "Blood magic," one of the elders breathed, horrified. "He's been using blood magic to strengthen himself." That was it. That was the proof. Blood magic was forbidden. It corrupted the user, destroyed pack bonds, turned wolves into monsters. Any wolf who practiced it forfeited all rights, all claims, all honor. Marcus shifted back to human, naked and snarling. "You can't! The throne is mine!" "The throne," Lyra said, stepping forward, "was never yours to take." She moved like liquid lightning, 2 steps, 1 leap, and her knee connected with Marcus's solar plexus. He went down hard, and she planted her boot on his neck. "This is for every wolf you called weak," she said softly. "Every scarred face you sneered at. Every orphan you dismissed." The broadcast crystals captured it perfectly, the rejected mate standing over the false king. Then, Caius did something unprecedented. He knelt beside Lyra, in front of everyone, and bared his throat. The ultimate submission, an alpha offering his most vulnerable point to his mate. "Bite me," he said. "Mark me. Show them who I belong to." Lyra stared at him. "Caius, if I mark you during a festival broadcast, the entire world will see." "Good." His eyes glowed gold. "Let them see. Let them know that the Alpha King of the Northern Territory belongs to Lyra Nighthelm, ranger, warrior, survivor. Let them know I'm proud of it." The crowd held its breath. Lyra looked at the crystals, at the thousands watching, at the she-wolf legion waiting, at the man who'd broken her and put himself back together, just to prove he could change. She leaned down and bit his shoulder, right where the scar tissue from her new wound marked him. The claiming mark flared bright silver, visible to everyone, a permanent brand that said, "Hers." And across every territory, in every pack home with a broadcast crystal, wolves saw it. Hashtag Kneel for Lyra started trending before they even left the stage. Chapter 11. The Price of a Crown. The council convened at dawn. 12 elders, freed from Marcus's dungeons, assembled in the Iron Ridge Neutral Hall. They looked haggard but determined, and they looked at Caius with something between respect and wariness. "Your Majesty," the head elder began carefully, "the people have seen your claim." "My mate's claim," Caius corrected. "I offered." She accepted. "There's a difference." The elders exchanged glances. "Precisely our concern," another said. "You've been publicly marked by a common-born wolf with no title, no lands, no noble blood." "Stop!" Lyra's voice cut through the room like a blade. She stood beside Caius, still in her battle leathers, unbowed. "Let's be clear. I'm not here to play political games. I'm not here to smile and nod while you debate my worth like I'm a piece of property." "Lady Nighthelm." "Just Lyra?" She met each elder's gaze in turn. "I've spent 3 years protecting the wolves your system abandoned. I've saved children you forgot, hunted rogues you ignored, and built a life from nothing. I don't need your approval, but he does." She gestured to Caius. "So here's what's going to happen." The elders bristled at her audacity, but Caius's hand found hers, and he squeezed once. "Go ahead. You want a Luna? Fine, but not the decorative kind you're used to. If I take this role, I represent the border territories, the orphans, the scarred, the forgotten. Their voices come to this council, or I walk. That's not how—" "And," Lyra continued, "the She-Wolf Legion becomes an official branch of the Royal Guard. Equal pay, equal respect, equal authority. No more aggressive labels. No more dismissing female warriors because they don't bow pretty enough." The head elder's face darkened. "You're demanding we restructure centuries of tradition for the wolves who just saved your throne from a blood magic traitor," Caius interrupted quietly. "Yes, that's exactly what we're demanding." Silence fell. "Your Majesty," the head elder said finally, "if you make these changes, half the noble families will revolt. You'll lose support, resources, possibly the throne itself." "Then I lose the throne." The elders stared. Caius stood, still holding Lyra's hand. "I rejected the most important person in my life because I chose power over love, because I let this council's politics dictate my heart. I won't make that mistake again." He reached up and removed the silver circlet he'd been wearing, the royal symbol, the mark of kingship. "I love her more than I love ruling," he said simply. "So if I have to choose between keeping her and keeping power, there's no choice at all." He set the circlet on the council table. "Find a king who wants your throne more than he wants his mate. Find someone who'll prioritize tradition over justice." I found my pulse, and I'd rather live as a nobody with her than rule an empire alone. Lyra's breath caught. Caius, I mean it. He turned to her, and his expression was absolutely certain. You're not a political strategy. You're not a compromise. You're my mate, my equal, and my choice. Every time, even if it costs me everything. The head elder looked at the circlet, at Caius, at Lyra. This is madness, he said softly. Probably, Caius agreed, but it's honest madness. The elders deliberated in whispers. Then, the council, the head elder announced slowly, has seen what dishonesty brings. Blood magic, assassination, betrayal. He picked up the circlet. Perhaps it's time for honesty, even when it's uncomfortable. He offered the circlet back to Caius. Keep your throne, your majesty. We accept Lady Lyra as Luna, with her conditions. The border territories will have representation. The She-Wolf Legion will be officially recognized. He paused. But know this, the noble families will fight you at every turn. This will not be easy. Caius took the circlet, but didn't put it on. Good, he said. Nothing worth having ever is. He handed the circlet to Lyra instead. Put it on me? He asked softly. Not as a subject to king, but as a mate to mate. I want my crown to carry your scent. Lyra took the silver circlet with shaking hands and placed it on his head. Then she took off one of her wolfsbane-marked bracers and fastened it around his wrist. There, she said. Now you carry my mark in silver and ink. Let them see. The council watched in silence as the Alpha King and his scarred mate stood together, neither bowing, neither breaking. Outside the hall, the She-Wolf Legion howled their approval, and #Kneel for Lyra became #Rule with Love. Chapter 12. Legend of the Broken. The noble families made their move within a week. Lords who'd supported Marcus, families who'd cheered at Lyra's original rejection, wolves who saw the changes as threats to their power, they united, and they came for the throne with lawyers, not swords. Challenges to Luna's claim, the head elder reported grimly, dropping a stack of parchments on the council table. 17 noble families contesting the legitimacy of your bond. They say because you publicly rejected her first, any subsequent claim is void. Lyra read through the documents, face unreadable. They want a formal trial, she said. Traditional Luna trials. 3 tests of strength, wisdom, and loyalty. If I fail any, they can demand you choose a proper mate from the noble bloodlines. Caius's claws extended, gouging marks in the table. Absolutely not. The bond is between us, not subject to their approval. I'll do it, Lyra said calmly. What? Number. Lyra, these trials are designed to break candidates. The last Luna who attempted them died, I know. Lyra met his eyes. But she was 17 and unprepared. I'm neither. You don't have to prove yourself to them. No, she agreed. But the wolves watching? The orphans and scarred and forgotten? They need to see that someone like them can stand in front of the nobles and not break. I'm doing this, Caius. The only question is whether you trust me. He closed his eyes, jaw tight. I trust you with everything. That's not the issue. Then let me fight. The Legion agreed unanimously. We'll train her, their captain, a grizzled she-wolf named Kara, announced. Traditional trials? Please. We invented half those tests before the nobles made them official. Lyra's ready. They had 3 days to prepare. The She-Wolf Legion put Lyra through hell. Dawn runs carrying weighted packs. Strategy sessions that lasted until midnight. Combat drills where 3 warriors attacked simultaneously. They tested everything. Her endurance, her thinking under pressure, her ability to lead when exhausted and bloodied. And on the 3rd night, Kara sat beside Lyra by the fire. You know what the real test is? Kara said quietly. What? Whether you can stand in front of wolves who hate you and stay soft where it matters. She poked the fire. The nobles will try to make you cruel. Try to turn you into them, hard, political, willing to sacrifice others for power. The trial isn't about strength. It's about staying human when they're demanding you become a monster. Lyra looked at her scars in the firelight. "I've been a monster," she said softly. "When I first ran, I wanted revenge so badly it consumed me. I hunted rogues not to save people, but to hurt something the way I'd been hurt. It took a year before I remembered how to protect instead of punish. And now? Now I fight for the kids who'll come after me, so they don't have to survive alone." She met Kara's eyes. "That's why I'm doing this. Not for approval, for proof that the system can change." Kara smiled, fierce and proud. "Then you'll win." Trial day arrived. The arena was packed, nobles in their finery, commoners in the cheap seats, broadcast crystals capturing everything. The three judges sat in raised boxes: a neutral alpha from a neighboring territory, a high priestess of the Moon Temple, and the head elder. 17 noble challengers stood opposite Lyra, each with a champion who'd compete on their behalf. The head elder raised his voice. "The Luna trials will test 3 virtues: strength, wisdom, and loyalty. Lady Lyra Nighthelm will face 3 challenges. Failure in any results in removal of Luna status." Lyra stepped into the arena alone. She wore simple leathers, her wolfsbane tattoos visible, her scars on full display. She'd braided her short silver hair away from her face, and she carried only a single dagger, Caius's, the one he'd used to carve the star. The nobles sneered. "First trial," the high priestess announced. "Strength." The arena floor opened, and 3 massive wolves emerged, captured rogues, starved and enraged, released for blood sport. The crowd gasped. This wasn't a test. It was an execution. But Lyra didn't hesitate. She shifted, her wolf form sleek and silver, smaller than the rogues, but fast as lightning. She used the arena walls, bouncing between surfaces, landing hits and dancing away. The rogues were powerful, but mindless with hunger. Lyra was tactical. She led them into colliding with each other, used their momentum against them, and when the moment came, she went for throats with surgical precision. 3 rogues down in under 5 minutes. The commoners roared approval. The nobles looked furious. "Second trial," the neutral alpha called. "Wisdom." A riddle, traditional and impossible. What howls but has no voice, runs but has no legs, and will outlive every alpha? Champions from the noble families conferred, debating answers. Lyra closed her eyes, thinking of the border territories, the children she'd saved, the legion she'd called. "The pack," she said, "not the individuals, the idea of pack. It howls through shared bonds, runs through generations, and outlives any single leader. That's what wisdom is. Knowing you're temporary, but the pack is forever." The high priestess nodded slowly. "Correct. 2 trials passed. 1 remained." "Final trial," the head elder said, and his voice carried weight. "Loyalty." The arena cleared. A single chair appeared in the center. "Sit," the head elder commanded. "And watch." Lyra sat, confused. Then the screens lit up, broadcast crystals showing footage from 3 years ago. Her rejection. The grand hall. Caius's cold voice. "You are weak." Scarred. Common, her blood on the marble. The bond stone shattering. Every moment, replayed in agonizing detail. "Loyalty," the head elder said, "is maintaining faith despite betrayal." "So we ask, can you be loyal to a wolf who destroyed you?" The footage continued, showed Caius with other she-wolves at political functions over the years, nobles pushing potential mates at him, moments that could be interpreted as moving on. Lyra watched it all, face stone. The nobles whispered, waiting for her to break, to show rage or jealousy or doubt. Instead, Lyra stood. "You want to know about loyalty?" she said, voice carrying. "Loyalty isn't blind faith. It's not ignoring betrayal or pretending pain didn't happen." She pointed at the screen. "That wolf destroyed me. Absolutely. And I died by a river because of it. The crowd murmured. But loyalty is also recognizing when someone changes, when they carve apologies into their own skin, when they abdicate thrones to prove they choose you. She turned to where Caius sat in the royal box. He's spent 3 years becoming worthy. And I'm loyal to that wolf, the one who learned, who grew, who fights for the forgotten now instead of the powerful. She looked back at the judges. If loyalty means accepting abuse, I'm not loyal. But if loyalty means believing people can be better, that bonds can heal stronger than before, then yes, I'm loyal to the wolf he chose to become, not the one he was. Silence fell. Then the high priestess stood, and she was smiling. The trials are past, she announced. All three. Lady Lyra Nighthelm has proven strength, wisdom, and loyalty. She turned to the nobles. Does anyone wish to challenge the results? The 17 noble families looked at each other, at the cheering commoners, at the broadcast crystals sending this to every territory. One by one, they shook their heads. Lyra had won, after 13. Battle for the bond. They should have known victory wouldn't last. Marcus Voss, imprisoned but not executed, had one final card to play. The escape happened during a new moon. No natural light. Guards stretched thin, covering the Luna trial celebrations. Marcus broke out with 12 blood mage followers, wolves corrupted by forbidden magic, their humanity stripped away. And they went straight for the palace. The alarm bells rang at midnight. Lyra woke to Caius already out of bed, pulling on armor. Blood mages at the gates, he said tersely. Marcus is leading them. He's demanding single combat. Me or he starts killing civilians. It's a trap. I know. Caius fastened his chest plate. But he has hostages. 3 children from the market district. Lyra's blood went cold. Then we don't give him single combat. We give him a war. She activated the Legion call, a howl that echoed through their bond network. Within minutes, she-wolves poured into the palace courtyard, armed and furious. But Caius was already gone, running toward the moon bridge where Marcus waited. Lyra cursed and sprinted after him. The moon bridge spanned a gorge between the palace and the old city, ancient stone, narrow enough that only 2 could walk abreast. And there, in the center, Marcus stood with his blood mage pack surrounding 3 terrified children. Nephew, Marcus called, voice echoing. Just like old times, you and me. Winner takes the throne. You're using children as leverage, Caius snarled, stopping at the bridge's edge. That's not honor. That's cowardice. Says the wolf who rejected his own mate. Marcus laughed, the sound wrong and broken. At least I'm honest about being a monster. You're just a monster who pretends at nobility. Lyra reached Caius's side, the legion spreading out behind them. Let the children go, she called. Your fight is with us, not them. Oh, the scarred Luna speaks. Marcus shoved one child forward, a little girl, maybe 7, sobbing. Tell me, Luna, how does it feel knowing your mate chose power over you? Knowing that in his heart, he'll always be the wolf who called you weak? He was that wolf, Lyra said calmly. Past tense. People change. You're the one stuck in the past. Then prove it. Marcus drew a silver blade. Single combat. Him and me. If I win, I take the throne and the children live. If he wins, well, I won't be around to care. Don't. Lyra grabbed Caius's arm. It's blood magic. He's stronger than he should be. Faster. I know. Caius kissed her forehead. But it's 3 children, Lyra. I can't let them die because I'm afraid. Then you don't fight alone. Before he could protest, Lyra stepped onto the bridge beside him. 2 against 1, Marcus sneered. How noble. No, Lyra interrupted. 2 equals, fighting together. That's how mates work. The Legion howled agreement, and the battle began. Marcus was fast, blood magic enhanced, moving with unnatural speed. He came at Caius like a whirlwind, silver blade aimed for the heart. but Caius had spent 3 years training with guilt as his partner. He blocked, deflected, and Lyra was already there, her dagger finding the gaps in Marcus's defense. They moved like water. When Caius struck high, Lyra went low. When she created an opening, he exploited it. The bond between them sang, sharing reflexes, anticipating movements. Marcus roared in frustration and released the blood mages. 12 corrupted wolves surged forward. The legion met them with savage precision. Steel and claws on ancient stone, blood running into the gorge below. In the chaos, Marcus went for the children. Lyra saw it, the calculation in his eyes, the shift toward the hostages, and she didn't hesitate. She threw herself between Marcus and the little girl, taking his silver blade straight through her shoulder. Pain, blinding, overwhelming. Silver burned like acid in her veins, but she grabbed the blade with her bare hand, holding it in place, and met Marcus's eyes. "Not today," she snarled, and Caius, seeing his mate wounded, exploded. His alpha form erupted, larger than ever, primal fury incarnate. He hit Marcus with enough force to shatter ribs, drove him back across the bridge, and it wasn't a fight anymore. It was an execution. "You hurt her," Caius growled, each word punctuated with a blow. "You threatened children. You betrayed everything our family stood for." Marcus tried to shift, tried to run. Caius's jaws closed around his throat, and it was over. The body hit the stone. The blood mages, seeing their leader dead, broke and fled. The legion hunted them down one by one. Silence fell across the moon bridge. Caius shifted back to human and collapsed beside Lyra, cradling her against his chest. The silver blade was still buried in her shoulder, poison spreading. "Stay with me," he begged, pressing his hands to the wound. "Lyra, stay." "The children," she whispered. "Are they safe? The Legion has them. You saved them." His voice cracked. "But you're bleeding silver, and I don't know how to—" "Bond," Lyra gasped. "Complete bond. Your blood can expel silver." It was risky, forcing a bond completion in the middle of trauma. But Caius didn't hesitate. He bit his own wrist and pressed it to her lips. "Drink," he commanded. "Take my strength. Take everything." Lyra drank, and the bond blazed. Gold light erupted between them, so bright the Legion shielded their eyes. The silver blade was pushed out of her shoulder by pure tether magic, clattering to the stone, and the wound began to close. Caius's blood, alpha blood, mate blood, bond blood, burned the poison away. When the light faded, Lyra was pale but breathing steady, and Caius was crying into her neck, shoulders shaking with relief. "I rejected the world," he whispered brokenly. "Never you. Never again you." "I know," Lyra said, holding him tight. "I know, you dramatic wolf." "I'm okay. We're okay." Around them, the Legion knelt, not in submission, but in respect. And the 3 children, safe and whole, watched the Alpha King sob in his mate's arms and learned that strength sometimes looks like vulnerability. Chapter 14. Heartbeat for heartbeat. The healing took 3 days. Silver poisoning didn't leave quickly, even with bond magic helping. Lyra drifted in and out of fever dreams, and Caius never left her side. He held her through the nightmares, visions of the rejection, the river, the years alone. He whispered apologies and promises, and read her the letters she'd written as a child, the ones he'd found in her parents' abandoned home. "Listen to this one," he said on the second night, voice hoarse from lack of sleep. "Dear Mama and Papa, today I saved a butterfly with a broken wing. Miss Kara says it probably won't fly again, but I made it a little garden anyway. Just because something's broken doesn't mean it can't be beautiful." He looked at Lyra's sleeping face, at the scars she wore like badges. "You were right, even then," he whispered. "I'm sorry it took me so long to see it." On the 3rd day, Lyra woke fully. Caius was asleep in the chair beside her bed, head pillowed on his arms, dark circles under his eyes. There were new lines on his face, worry carved into flesh. She reached out and touched his hair. He jolted awake immediately, eyes wild. Lyra! I'm okay, she said softly. Really okay. He crushed her into a hug, mindful of her healing shoulder, and she felt wetness on her neck. I thought I'd lost you again, he said raggedly. When that blade went in, when I saw the silver spreading, His voice broke completely. I can't do this without you. I don't want to exist in a world where you're not breathing. Good thing I'm stubborn then. She pulled back to look at him. Caius, you saved my life. You saved mine first. 3 years ago, when you crushed that bond stone, you showed me what real strength looks like. He pressed his forehead to hers. A weaker person would have begged me to reconsider, would have diminished themselves trying to please me. You looked at the wolf who was supposed to be your forever and said, not like this. That's power I'll never have. You have it now, Lyra said. You walked away from the throne for me, remember? That was easy. Choosing you is always easy. He kissed her gently. The hard part was learning to be worthy of you choosing back. A knock interrupted them. Kara poked her head in, grinning. She's awake? Good. The kingdom's losing their minds. Lyra Lives is trending. There's a petition to make her battle stance the new national symbol, and approximately 600 she-wolves are demanding to join the Legion. Lyra laughed, then winced at the pull on her shoulder. 600? You took a silver blade for a civilian child on live broadcast, Kara said dryly, during a blood mage attack. While already wounded from the Luna trials, you're officially a folk hero. I'm officially an idiot who doesn't dodge fast enough. Nah. Kara's smile softened. You're a Luna who means it. That's rarer than you think. Over the next week, as Lyra recovered, the kingdom transformed. The border territories sent delegates, excited, hopeful, finally believing they had representation. The orphanages received funding. The She-Wolf Legion established training programs for any wolf who wanted to learn combat, regardless of gender or background. And the noble families? Some stayed bitter, but others, seeing the genuine love between the Alpha and his scarred Luna, started to reconsider what strength really meant. One noble lord approached Lyra during her first public appearance post-recovery. Lady Luna, he said stiffly. I was among those who challenged your claim. Lyra tensed, but he continued. My daughter has facial scars from a training accident. She's been hiding in our estate for 2 years, ashamed. He paused. She watched the Luna trials. Watched you stand there with your scars visible, unashamed, powerful. Yesterday, she left the estate for the first time. She said if the Luna can be brave, so can she. His voice cracked. Thank you, he said simply, and bowed. Lyra's eyes burned. What's her name? Mira. Bring her to the palace. I'll introduce her to the Legion. We have plenty of wolves with scars who'd love to show her what warriors look like. That became Lyra's mission. Not political maneuvering, but visibility. She trained in public courtyards, told her story to anyone who asked, made it clear that the Luna of the Northern Territory was scarred, broken once, and stronger for it. And Caius stood beside her through it all, never overshadowing, never diminishing, just present, proud, and utterly devoted. One night, alone in their chambers, Lyra traced the carved marks on his chest. Do you regret it? She asked quietly. The abdication threats, the noble pushback, all of it. If you could go back and choose differently, choose a noble mate, an easier path. Never. Caius caught her hand, pressed it over his heart where the star and wolfsbane flower were carved. You feel that? That's the only heartbeat that matters. Every other choice led me to losing you. This one, this messy, complicated, beautiful disaster of a choice, brought me home. Home? You, he said simply. You're my home, Lyra. Crown or no crown, throne or no throne. Wherever you are, that's where I belong. She kissed him then, deep and slow, and the bond between them glowed gentle gold. Outside their window, the kingdom slept, scarred and healing, broken and building, learning that sometimes the strongest foundations are the ones rebuilt with honesty. Chapter 15. Crown of Wheat and Stars. The coronation was unlike any the Northern Territory had ever seen. Traditional Luna coronations happened in the Grand Hall. Marble and gold, nobles in silk, crowns forged from pure silver mined from sacred grounds. Lyra refused it all. "I'm not being crowned in the place I was rejected," she said firmly. "And I'm not wearing a crown made from silver that could have been used for weapons to protect the borders." "Then where?" the head elder asked, bewildered. "And what crown?" Lyra smiled. "I know exactly where, and I know exactly what. The coronation happened in a wheat field on the border between territories, the same field where she'd saved those children from rogues years ago. The same field where farmers who couldn't afford palace politics worked dawn to dusk. No marble floors, just earth and growing things. No silk finery. Lyra wore leather armor decorated with wildflowers, and Caius wore simple black, his royal circlet replaced with a thin band of woven wheat. And the crown? The Legion had forged it from the melted-down silver arrow, the one that had nearly killed Lyra during the Blood Mage battle. They'd mixed the silver with gold from Caius's royal treasury and woven it with wheat stems from this very field. It was a crown of contradictions: weapon and harvest, pain and growth, precious metal and common grain. Perfect for a Luna who embodied all those things. Thousands came to witness, commoners and nobles alike, standing together in the wheat field under open sky. The broadcast crystals captured everything, sending the ceremony to every pack territory. The high priestess spoke first, voice carrying. "We stand in fertile ground to crown a Luna born from scorched earth," she said. Lyra Nighthelm was rejected, broken, left for dead. She remade herself into ash, into protection and strength. And now she rises as Luna, carrying the scars that mark her journey. She lifted the crown of wheat and stars. "This crown represents the Luna we need, forged from weapons meant to harm, grown from fields worked by common hands, built from pain transformed into purpose. Lyra Nighthelm, do you accept this crown and the responsibility it carries?" Lyra stepped forward, and her voice rang clear. "I accept." Not for power or prestige, but to serve the wolves this kingdom forgot. The orphans, the scarred, the common-born, the warriors who fight in shadows while nobles feast in light. She looked at the crowd, really looked, meeting eyes. "I was you once. I remember what it feels like to be invisible. I won't forget." The high priestess placed the crown on Lyra's head. It caught the sunlight, silver and gold and wheat all gleaming together, and the crowd erupted, but not with polite applause. With howls. Every wolf present, common and noble, legion and guard, even some of the elders, threw back their heads and howled. A pack call, an acceptance, a promise. Caius knelt in the wheat beside her, baring his throat in public submission. "My Luna," he said, voice thick with emotion. "My equal, my home." Lyra touched his marked shoulder, then helped him stand. "No kneeling," she said softly, but loud enough for the crystals to catch. "Not from you, not from anyone. We rise together or not at all." She pulled him up, and they stood hand in hand, Alpha King and Luna, predator and prey who'd rewritten every rule. The head elder approached with two ceremonial cloaks. Traditionally, the Luna wore white and the Alpha wore black, symbolizing separation of duties. Lyra looked at them and shook her head. "New tradition," she announced. "We both wear gray. Light and dark together. No separation." The head elder blinked, then slowly smiled. "As you wish, Luna." They fastened the gray cloaks, simple wool, warm and practical, and turned to face their kingdom. "I'm not the Luna you expected," Lyra said, her voice carrying across the field. I'm scarred. I'm common-born. I've made mistakes, and I'll make more. But I promise you this. I will fight for every wolf who's been told they're not good enough, every child who's been orphaned, every warrior who's been dismissed, every person who's been rejected and left to survive alone. She raised her hand, and the legion stepped forward, forming a protective circle around the crowd. Not threatening, but sheltering. "We are the Legion of the Broken," Kara called out, "and we stand with Luna Lyra." The crowd took up the chant, "Luna Lyra! Luna Lyra!" Caius wrapped his arm around her waist and whispered in her ear, "3 years ago, I stood in a marble hall and threw away everything that mattered. Today, I stand in a wheat field and finally understand what a kingdom really is." "What is it?" Lyra asked. "Not the throne. Not the power. Not the gold." He gestured to the crowd, commoners weeping with joy, children sitting on parents' shoulders to see, even nobles looking thoughtful. "It's this. Every person who believes they deserve better. Every wolf willing to rebuild after breaking. That's a kingdom worth ruling." "Worth serving," Lyra corrected. "Worth serving," he agreed. The celebration lasted until dawn. No formal balls or rigid protocols, just food and music and wolves from every class mixing freely. Children played in the wheat. Elders shared stories with young warriors. Nobles tentatively approached legion members and found common ground. And in the center of it all, Lyra danced with Caius. Simple, joyful, two people who'd found their way back to each other through blood and silver and impossible odds. As the sun rose, painting the wheat field gold, a young girl approached, the same child Lyra had saved from Marcus's blade. "Luna," she said shyly. Lyra knelt to her level. "Hello, brave one. I made you something." The girl held out a bracelet woven from wheat stems and wildflowers. "For saving me." Lyra's eyes burned as she let the child tie it around her wrist, right next to the wolfsbane-marked bracer. "It's perfect," she whispered. "Thank you." The girl hugged her fiercely, then ran back to her parents. Caius pulled Lyra close, resting his chin on her head. "That's why we're doing this," he murmured. "So that little girl grows up knowing her Luna wears wheat crowns and homemade bracelets. So she knows power doesn't have to look perfect. So she knows broken things can be beautiful," Lyra added, echoing her childhood letter. "Exactly." They stood together as the sun fully rose, crowned in wheat and stars, wrapped in gray cloaks, leading a kingdom that was finally learning to embrace its scars. Number sign Rule with Love became number sign Crown of Wheat. And across every territory, orphans and scarred wolves and common-born dreamers looked at their Luna and thought, maybe I can be strong too. Chapter 16. Epilogue. The Predator's Peace. 1 year later, the nursery was painted in soft grays and silvers, with wheat stalks embroidered on the curtains, and wolfsbane flowers, rendered gentle, not threatening, decorating the walls. Lyra paced, one hand on her very pregnant belly, the other gripping Caius's hand hard enough to break bones. "Breathe," Caius said, though his voice shook. The midwife said, "I am breathing, you ridiculous wolf!" Lyra gasped as another contraction hit. "This is me breathing!" The she-wolf legion stood guard outside, not because of danger, but because half the kingdom was camped in the palace courtyard, waiting for news of the royal birth. Kara poked her head in. "How's our Luna?" "Threatening to kill me if I suggest breathing one more time," Caius said. "Good. Means she's still herself." Kara grinned. "You got this, Lyra." The labor was long and difficult. Twins they discovered months ago, which was rare for wolves. But finally, the first cry pierced the air. The midwife lifted a tiny, squirming pup. Literally, a pup. The baby shifted within seconds of birth, a miniature silver wolf with gold eyes. "A boy!" The midwife breathed, awed, and he shifted immediately. "I've never seen Alpha blood," Lyra gasped, already reaching for her son. Give him. But the contractions started again. Second baby coming, the midwife called. This one took longer, and Caius held Lyra through every moment, whispering encouragements and apologies and promises. The tiny wolf pup, their son, curled against Lyra's chest, already protective. Then the second cry came, human, loud, furious. A girl, the midwife announced, placing the baby in Caius's shaking arms. Unlike her brother, she remained human, but her eyes, when they opened, were the same silver gold as Lyra's. She had a tiny birthmark on her shoulder, shaped like a star. Caius stared at his daughter and promptly burst into tears. She has your mark, he said brokenly, showing Lyra. The star. She carries your symbol. The wolf pup whined and shifted back to human, a tiny boy with dark hair and gold eyes. He immediately reached for his sister, placing his small hand on her forehead like a blessing. Protecting her already, Lyra whispered, exhausted and elated. What should we name them? Caius looked at his family, his scarred, fierce mate, his protective son, his fierce daughter, and felt something settle in his chest. Ash, he said softly, for the boy, after who you became when you rebuilt yourself. Lyra's eyes filled. And the girl? Hope. He kissed the baby's forehead. Because that's what we're giving them. A better world. Ash and Hope Voss, born under a solar eclipse, heirs to a kingdom rebuilt on honesty. The news spread through the territory within minutes. The crowd outside erupted in celebration, howls echoing across the city, fireworks spelling out the babies' names in light. The head elder visited that evening, looking at the twins with wonder. A shifter from birth, he murmured, watching little Ash flicker between forms. That hasn't happened in 300 years. And the birthmark. He touched Hope's star gently. The old texts say marks like these indicate Luna bloodline. True Luna, not just mated. What does that mean? Lyra asked. It means your daughter may have her own alpha abilities. Command, leadership, bond magic. He smiled. You're not just raising heirs. You're raising the wolves who'll finish rebuilding this kingdom. Over the following months, the twins grew. Fast, as wolf children did. Ash shifted constantly, unable to control it yet, his wolf form appearing whenever he felt protective of his sister. He'd shift into a pup and curl around Hope whenever she cried, his small body radiating heat and comfort. Hope, meanwhile, showed early signs of command. Her cries could stop adults mid-sentence, and once, when a guard raised his voice near the nursery, she'd wailed and every wolf in the palace dropped to their knees, compelled. We're raising a predator and a force of nature, Caius said one night, watching Ash in wolf form sleep across Hope's crib like a guardian. Good, Lyra replied, nursing Hope. They'll need to be both. But the most striking moments were the quiet ones. Caius teaching Ash, in human form, finally, to help with the palace gardens. The future Alpha King, covered in dirt, showing his son how to plant wheat. We rule the kingdom, Caius explained seriously to the 4-year-old, but we serve the land. Never forget that. Ash nodded solemnly, his gold eyes wise beyond his years. Meanwhile, Lyra trained Hope and a class of young she-wolves, teaching them combat, yes, but also negotiation. How to fight with love instead of hate. How to be strong without being cruel. Power, Lyra told her daughter and students, isn't about making others kneel. It's about helping them stand. Hope absorbed every lesson, her silver gold eyes sharp and thoughtful. One evening, the family sat together in the wheat field, where Lyra had been crowned, now a memorial park, open to all citizens. Ash shifted to wolf form and chased fireflies while Hope laughed, toddling after her brother. Caius lay in the wheat with Lyra curled against him, watching their children play. Do you ever regret it? Lyra asked quietly. The hard path. The nobles who still sneer. The constant work. Caius turned to look at her, this scarred, magnificent woman who'd survived his worst cruelty and somehow forgiven him anyway. "Every night," he said, "I dream of the grand hall, of the moment I rejected you, and every morning I wake up with you beside me, our children playing, a kingdom healing. The dreams are my punishment. The mornings are my redemption." He touched her scars gently, reverently. "I was a predator who thought power meant dominance. You taught me that real strength is vulnerability. Real power is service. And the most dangerous thing in the world," he smiled, "is a heart that's been broken and chose to love anyway." "That's sappy," Lyra said, but she was crying. "You made me sappy." He kissed her tears. "A predator's heart, once given, beats only for its chosen prey. And Lyra, you're the only heartbeat I'll ever hunt." In the distance, Ash howled, playful and young, and Hope giggled, clapping her hands. Lyra and Caius joined the howl, their voices weaving with their children's, and across the kingdom, wolves answered. A pack call, a promise, a future. Once, Aluna was rejected in a marble hall. She died by a river and rose from ash. She claimed a predator who'd thrown her away, and together, they built a kingdom where broken things weren't discarded. They were treasured. And so ends the story of Lyra Nighthelm and Caius Voss, the Luna who crushed her bondstone, and the Alpha who spent 3 years earning the right to rebuild it. Their children grew strong, their kingdom grew kind, and every orphan, every scarred wolf, every common-born dreamer who heard their story learned this truth. Rejection isn't the end. Sometimes it's the fire that forges you into something unbreakable. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and predators who learn to love, hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button if you're team number Crown of Wheat. And turn on those notifications so you never miss another tale of heartbreak, healing, and happily ever afters built from ashes. Share this with someone who needs to hear that broken things can be beautiful. That scars tell stories of survival. That sometimes the prey you throw away becomes the predator who teaches you what true strength really means. Until next time, remember, a predator's heart, once given, beats only for its chosen prey, forever.